Hi guys, quick update to bring to you about the events that are transpiring over in Syria at the moment. The US allied strikes in Syria have heightened Israel's apprehension about being left alone to face a possible Iranian reprisal for the T4 strike. That Israel's forces are on higher alert than ever on its northern borders with Syria and Lebanon days before its independence anniversary celebrations is a measure of this apprehension. The US, British and French surgical missile strikes on 3 Iranian chemical sites on Saturday, April the 14th. It was realized in Jerusalem not only missed addressing Israel's security concerns, but exacerbated them. Syrian dictator Bashar Assad, Iran's Middle East commander General Qasem Soleimani, and Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah had every reason to breathe a sigh of relief when they heard the Trump administration's assurance that further military action would only be forthcoming if Assad repeated his use of chemical weapons after the Duma atrocity. After an anxious couple of weeks, all three saw they were off the hook for further US military action, whether against regime targets in Damascus, Iranian, Shia and Hezbollah forces in Syria, or even acts of aggression against Israel. Nasrallah was the first to openly rejoice on Sunday. He put the new situation in a nutshell. Western strikes on Syria have failed to terrorize the army, help insurgents, or even serve Israel's interests. His assessment was confirmed by the US ambassador to UN, Nikki Haley. Asked when the US troops would be pulled out of Syria, as President Donald Trump had promised, she outlined the administration's 3 goals before this drawdown: a total end of the use of chemical weapons in the Syria war, complete defeat and destruction of the Islamic State. But on the 3rd goal, the ambassador's otherwise crisp delivery turned vague, she said, and he wanted to make sure that we had good grounds to watch what Iran was doing, and they weren't making a lot of aggressive headway in terms of that, because Iran is a national threat to America's interests. Not a word did Haley have to say about the threat posed by Iran's military presence in Syria, although that is one of the greatest concerns to Israel's security. So I'm just going to stop there because just very briefly to reiterate what happened during the strikes that were taking place on Syria by France, the UK and the US. Russia and Hezbollah-backed forces were pushing for control of the Euphrates River. Russia was bringing in new military equipment into Syria, and Russia had also moved bombers over into Iran. And I think that's in anticipation of a strike coming from Israel on Iran, because Israel is, to put it simply, paranoid about Iran and their use of, or their development of nuclear weapons, and their aggressiveness in strategically placing their forces close to Israel's borders. And Israel doesn't like that, so they've been striking Iranian targets all over the place, and they struck the T4 base in Syria, which was an Iranian target. So now, after the strikes that have happened with France, the US and the UK, Israel is feeling rather isolated. And this is interesting because the senior Iranian commander said Israel can no longer threaten Iran. Now this is where it gets very, very, very interesting. Iranian Army Ground Forces commander, I'm not going to say his name, has warned that Israel can no longer threaten the Islamic Republic as tensions continue to rise along Israel's northern border. Hidari said Iran's armed forces are much more powerful than before, and that the date has been set for Israel's destruction. According to official news agency, he was speaking in Tehran ahead of Iran's Army Day. Now, this is where I flip out a little bit, because Iran's Army Day just so happens to fall on April the 18th. Along with everything else, there's so many references to April the 18th, I can't even begin to put it all into this video because it's just too much. There's far too many references to April the 18th. The creepy voicemail, the meetings between the Japanese Prime Minister and Donald Trump, the key resolve exercises, the Chinese live fire drills that are going to be going on that day, Iran's Army Day, the Dark Sky Week, everything's going on. And April 18th is looking very, very significant. Today is the 17th of April at 6:15 in the morning. And obviously there's not many hours left until we reach on to April the 18th and see what happens. But we've got the Iranian general saying that the date has been set for Israel's destruction. And he was speaking in Tehran ahead of Iran's Army Day. And that just really stood out to me. So I thought, you know what, yeah, that needs to be kind of pointed out, because it's something that is linked in with everything. So Israel's officials have repeatedly voiced concerns over the growing Iranian entrenchment on its borders and the smuggling of sophisticated weaponry to Hezbollah from Tehran to Lebanon via Syria, stressing that both are red lines for the Jewish state. Iran's Army Day is marked on April the 18th, the same day on which Israel will celebrate its 70th Independence Day. There are too many correlations. Hidari taunted others in the region by saying that unlike countries such as Saudi Arabia, which imports its arms from the West, the armed forces of Iran were produced locally. Iran's military budget for 2017 was a record 15.9 billion. That's up nearly 65% from 2014. Israel is concerned that Iran is not only trying to consolidate its grip in Syria, from which it can have both its proxy militias like Hezbollah, as well as its own troops from the IRGC Quds force attack Israel. Israel is also concerned that Tehran is trying to build advanced weapons factories in Lebanon in order to manufacture more accurate missiles, which are GPS guided and could hit targets within a 50-meter radius. I don't know if that's meant to say a 50-meter radius or a 50-kilometer radius, but it's all escalating. All the pieces are in place, as I keep saying. All the pieces are in place, and more pieces just keep moving into place. And then we have reports. Obviously, as I said, Israel is very paranoid regarding Iran and strike Iranian targets wherever they may find them. So we have reports today that the Syrian military is responding to an Israeli attack in Damascus. So Syria's air defenses have been firing at unidentified objects over Damascus in what is believed to be an Israeli airstrike. Syria state television has confirmed its air defenses are repelling attacks in the country's Homs region. The military announced that around 1:10 a.m. local time that it had fired missiles towards the Sharat air base to the southeast of Homs and its surrounding area in the Homs governorate. Local reporter, I forget that. Mr. Jold added shortly after that another air defense missile was just launched. According to local reports, several missiles were launched after unknown warplanes entered Syrian airspace from Lebanon. Now, apparently, Syria's air defenses have taken down 9 of Israel's missiles. If it is Israel that's firing, the US have responded to say that they have no military action in the region, so it is most likely Israel. Now, Israel, as I said at the beginning of the report, are feeling isolated, and Iran are saying that Israel are no longer a threat and that the day of the destruction has come. And then you've got reports about Israel attacking Syria just today. I don't know if any reports of, I keep looking for these reports of collateral damage, because that to me is what spurs the events from, you know, a serious level to a really, really serious level, because civilians have been killed in this, you know, in this war. But obviously, Israel, in this strike that they're taking out now, or have taken out today or earlier today, they haven't got any coalition forces backing them. The United States isn't backing them on that. France, the United Kingdom, no other countries are backing them on that. They've done that unilaterally. And with all the new Russian military equipment in the area and the Russian bombers in Iran preparing for maybe a preemptive strike on Iran, or even a retaliatory one if Iran decides to attack Israel first. As I said, Israel's got a very good intelligence agency, and they may pick up chatter that Iran's about to attack, so they would attack first. But obviously the Russians are there and their allies, and it's all tied in together. So I've explained that in a lot of these videos across the last couple of days, that this has all been coming to me, and I think that April the 18th, tomorrow, is an extremely significant day. If you don't have yourself right with the Lord, I suggest you do so. Even if nothing happens, it's always good to, have that peace of mind, because life is a gift, and you never know when it's going to be kind of taken away. So it's always best to be prepared, like the Boy Scouts say. It's a good motto. But yeah, keep an eye on what's going on, because it's difficult to get these reports. I wasn't receiving any of these reports on the on the news. You have to kind of scour the internet to find these kind of reports. So this airstrike that Israel has conducted isn't being widely reported as of yet. It may pick up in the morning, but I thought I wanted to bring it to you now so that you're aware of what's going on. And with that, you guys, I'll just say keep your eyes out April the 18th. I've already explained how many things are going on that day, and with this Iranian commander saying that the date of Israel's destruction is set, and both Israel and Iran are celebrating something significant to each country on that day. It may be that on Israel's 70th anniversary, which we've been looking out for anyway because we know it's significant biblically, and then we've got the Iran's Army Day. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.